Alright. What's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. And so it appears, just like that, we are at the end of 2023. And just like every year, Pokemon has been kind of busy. In some ways more than others. Since we're just a few days out from the end of the year, I decided, hey, why not take a look back and see if Pokemon did anything super duper interesting this year, and really reflect on things. And for the record, I'm only going to be talking about the stuff that I kept up with personally because I have absolutely no say when it comes to the TCG, Pokemon Masters, or Pokemon Unite, because I have not touched any of those in forever. But with all of that being said, why don't we go ahead and reflect on Pokemon in 2023. Starting with January, nothing really all that substantial happened in terms of general Pokemon news. And plus, it had only been about a month since Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had dropped, so a lot of people were still playing, a lot of people were still talking about it. I personally had already beaten it twice over, and was kind of just working on finishing my review, and just getting up general content for you guys, because I had not done anything for that entire December. Most of the people that were still playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet at that point were really just hoping that we would get some kind of like patch updates or something like that for the game. Yeah, no, they made it very clear that that was literally never on their agenda, ever. However though, we all knew what was coming, our inevitable February Direct for Pokemon Day. So we were all kind of looking forward to that and seeing what would happen next with Generation 9. February rolls around and it wasn't until the end of it that we actually received our Pokemon Day Presents. A lot of it was the same kind of general stuff that we would usually get during these presents. TCG stuff, mobile games, Unite, all of that. However, I will say that it was very interesting to finally get some kind of news and updates regarding Pokemon Sleep, which we hadn't heard about in like 3 or so years since they first announced it. We didn't actually end up receiving Pokemon Sleep until like the middle of the year, and I never really went near it. I downloaded it, started the dialogue, and then didn't bother doing anything with it at all. So that kind of just goes to show the general Pokemon Sleep experience. The primary point of interest that we were all pretty much waiting for and expecting was the announcement of the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Just like Generation 8, we were able to get a very brief glance of the future that we could look forward to in Generation 9. Unlike Generation 8, the gap in between was much larger. We were not set to receive these DLCs until the respective fall and winter of 2023. So yeah, we were definitely in for a long wait. For the next coming 4 months, it was super dead in regards to Pokemon. Like I had said in previous videos, they had become completely reliant on live service games to hold us over in terms of content for Pokemon. And personally, I was not a fan of this idea because a lot of the mobile games that they had put out by this point I have already played the crap out of, so I'm kind of done with them. And so, in turn, those 4 months were very dry in terms of content for me. You can see it on my channel. I was very sporadic and very random with the topics that I picked. It wasn't until our summer scheduled Nintendo Direct that I actually got something to talk about. And that really caught me off guard because rarely in Nintendo Directs do they ever talk about anything relating to Pokemon. But what really surprised me is that they talked about 2 things relating to Pokemon, which is absolutely unheard of for a Nintendo Direct. The first thing that they gave us was obviously our first glance into the DLC. We got our first real look into the land of Kitakami, we got introduced to Kieran and Carmine, we had seen a couple of the returning Pokemon and stuff like that, and it was really nice. Obviously, they didn't show anything too extravagant. After all, they had to withhold as much as they could so that we didn't get spoiled on the DLC. But by that point, I'm thinking, if they're showing off all this, what are they gonna give us in the next Pokemon Presents? Cause I know that they don't have a lot to give us. But what surprised me, and probably a lot of other Pokemon fans even more, was the fact that we were getting the long-awaited sequel to Detective Pikachu on Switch. I had absolutely no clue what to think of this, especially because I had never played Detective Pikachu 1. I've seen the movie, but the movie has absolutely nothing to do with the original game. At this point, I'm like, they realize how long they waited to put this out, right? I can't imagine how many people are going to be that into this. But hey, at least they were doing something with it at all. So I figured if I ever got the opportunity, I would play through the first one or watch a playthrough of the first one, and then eventually snag the sequel at some point so that I could do like a blind playthrough stream on the channel or something like that. So I decided to wait it out and see what happens. July was very quiet. We got absolutely nothing throughout that month, which was to be expected because they had just given us all of the news that we were going to get regarding Pokemon in the Nintendo Direct, so I was not shocked about this at all. However, we did have our August Pokemon Presents to look forward to. And within that Pokemon Presents, we actually did get quite a few interesting announcements. Once again, they gave us a little more Detective Pikachu, which was set to release in October, so okay, cool, it's super close, whatever. After that, they showed us the first glimpse of the dub for Pokemon Horizons, our new official Pokemon anime. We are, at this point, still waiting for Pokemon Horizons. However, I didn't realize until I looked it up that the dub isn't coming out on Netflix until February. So, that's cool, I guess. Obviously, though, a lot of us have been waiting on this anime because it's the new anime. Ash has been replaced as the main character, and we have an entirely new cast to look forward to with entirely new adventures. Now, I will be honest with you guys, I did have a couple of opportunities to watch the original subbed version of Pokemon Horizons. However, the editing for that would have been hell, so I decided not to do it that way. So I decided to wait it out like everybody else for when it comes out with the dub on Netflix so I could just enjoy it the way it was meant to be enjoyed for the Westerners out here. At that point in time, I had already heard like some mixed reviews regarding people's thoughts on the anime. However, the animation quality looks pretty good at least, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. After showing off some more mobile game stuff, as per usual, we actually got our first glimpse into Pokemon Paldean Winds. Anybody that knows me knows that I am very passionate when it comes to these weird little Pokemon miniseries that they decide to drop, because these little miniseries usually tend to be some of the best forms of media when it comes to Pokemon. So obviously, I was very ecstatic when they announced this. Funny enough, a week before the first episode of Paldean Winds dropped, I made a video titled, "Why Paldean Winds Makes Me Angry." For whatever reason, that video ended up being my most viewed video of 2023. You should definitely go and check that video out when you get the chance because I still feel like it holds up today, but the long and short of it is, in that video I discuss why these miniseries are so important to overall Pokemon as an older fan of the series. When they do stuff like this, it's the only time we ever get to get such a unique glance at characters and Pokemon from a different perspective that we never get from anything mainline as far as the anime or the games. We get a lot deeper into characterization and storytelling, which is extremely frustrating because the mainline games and anime don't really do that as much. Now, to get to the nit and grit, I was absolutely ecstatic for Paldean Winds. Now, if the series actually lived up to that hype, we'll have to talk about in another video, probably very early next year, so stay tuned for that. Anywho, after the announcement for Paldean Winds, we got the announcement for the inevitable Mew and Mewtwo event in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The only reason I brought that up was because I found it so interesting how easy it is to get these Pokemon now. I mean, Mewtwo was a pain. I did not participate in that raid whatsoever, but Mew for free with a random Terra type to just have? Are you kidding? There was a point in time where this Pokemon was simply nothing more than a rumor. A Mew under the truck. If you try hard enough, you can get the Mew. It would never happen unless you hacked the game or something like that. Years down the line, he would show up in random events, I think. I'm not even 100% sure about that because I don't really know. And then Pokemon Let's Go came out, and then the only way to get him at that point was to purchase like an $80 Pokeball controller so that you could get it. And then there was this event where you could just get a free Mew with a random Terra type. Alright then, we've definitely come a very long way. And then, to end off the final Pokemon Presents that we would be receiving in 2023, they announced the release date for the DLC of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Part 1. It was set to release in the middle of September, and that was that. September rolled around and we finally got the first part of the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Teal Mask. I already have my general review out for this very specific DLC, but the long and short of it is, I had a pretty good time with it. Yes, very much like the base game. It was very buggy. However, It brought back a lot of awesome Pokemon, it gave us a new area to explore, it gave us an awesome story in Carmine and Kieran, and it added a lot of little quality of life stuff, so honestly, I can't be too mad about it. If you want my in-depth thoughts on this specific DLC, yes sir, this is a shameless plug, video is right there, somewhere. Probably in the description, I don't know, but go check it out, it's on the channel, I promise you. Not hard to find. Overall though, for what it was a pretty good time, and it had me very much looking forward to part 2. After that, we sat on that for a month, and then in October, we received Detective Pikachu 2. I am one of the many that did not end up picking that game up, and I don't regret it because I did not hear a single good thing about that game other than the voice acting. But that's it. Here's the thing, I feel like things would have gone a lot smoother if they first worked on porting over the original Detective Pikachu to the Switch and then taking a little more time to work out the kinks and stuff in Detective Pikachu 2. But because they didn't do that, the game kind of released to not so stellar reviews, and now we're left with that. So, we'll talk more about that in a minute, but long and short of it is, yeah, I don't regret not getting it. And then we moved to November, where it was absolutely dead quiet. Nothing was happening. At some point, like 2 or 3 weeks prior, they randomly dropped the release date for part 2 of the DLC on like all their social media platforms, but not even in a video format, as like a picture. That was probably the most nonchalant way I've ever seen them announce something that major. Ever. But regardless, I went ahead, cleared my calendar, and prepared for the inevitable release day. December 14th finally rolled around, and I spent an entire day on it. I did not stop playing until I was pretty much finished with it. And again, within my last 2 literal uploads, I put out all of my thoughts regarding part 2 of the DLC. The long and short, I had fun, and it absolutely outclassed part 1 in every way, shape, and form. Well, except in the performance arena, but other than that, solid. However, apparently, we still aren't even done because they then announced afterward that we still have an epilogue episode to look forward to sometime in January, so that is neat. However, the epilogue is not part of 2023, that's 2024, so we'll talk about that when we get there. And so, with that, how well did Pokemon do for us in 2023? I don't really know how to put this into words, other than it was definitely an okay year for Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure that their pockets absolutely disagree, but as a consumer, we didn't really get all that much. Like I said earlier, they relied very heavily on their mobile stuff and live service games and the, few events that happened throughout the course of the year in Scarlet and Violet to really hold us over until the DLC, and you know, that was whatever. I'm good on like Cafe Remix and Unite and stuff like that. I don't really mess with that stuff anymore. The only real spin-off game that we got was Detective Pikachu 2, which didn't really do all that well, and because of that, I have a gut feeling that that's probably going to kill any chances of us getting any real spin-off games anytime soon, so yeah, that's kind of gut-wrenching, a little bit. And now that the mainline games have mostly come to a conclusion, we have no idea what to expect next year. But they have been very heavily pushing towards Gen 5 stuff for some reason, which I can't believe that they had enough time to develop Gen 5 remakes this fast. If they did, I'm gonna be sick to my stomach. It was a mostly empty year for Pokemon. They drip-drop things here and there to really keep us entertained, but for the most part, they really heavily relied on the DLC and not too much else in regards to, you know, what kind of content we were receiving, so it is what it is. Oh, I am really looking forward to Pokemon Concierge, though. I think that comes out in a couple of weeks, right? So that should be a cute little mini-series to look forward to. Karen Fukuhara, awesome actress, and voice actress apparently. Had no idea she was good like that, so very much looking forward to that. Actually, you know what? I think we'll save the 2024 Pokemon talk for 2024. For now, this was a year with Pokemon in it, for certain. But regardless, I had a good time making all these videos, conversing with you guys about our differing opinions regarding the games, regarding anime, regarding everything else within the sphere of Pokemon. As always, you guys have made this such a fun thing for me to do. And I don't think I say this enough, that I truly do appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in, either a little or a lot. If you have ever tuned in to any of my videos, I appreciate you. Thank you. so much. If you hate my videos, I get it, you know what I mean? Pokemon is a very opinionated space, and I like to give my opinion, and so, you know, it's gonna conflict with a lot of other people's ideals when it comes to Pokemon. But regardless of that, that's kind of the fun. That's discussion. I like discussion, and clearly a lot of you guys do too, and I really appreciate you guys having that discussion with me. Alright, so thank you guys again for truly making this another fun year for this channel, and hopefully we can do even more next year. I can't make too many promises, but I think it's time we kick things up into high gear going into the next year, so we'll talk about that when we get to that. But for now, I think I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that, because this is the last video of this year. Which, in hindsight, like, it makes it sound sadder than it is, you know? Like, oh, this is the last video, but, you know, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I'm gonna be back. I already have another video ready for you guys bright and early for the new year, so, you know, I'm not gonna be gone for long. But I hope that all of you guys have happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that good stuff. I hope you guys have a great time with your families. I hope you guys enjoy your games. I hope you guys are still enjoying the DLC. I hope you guys are having a grand time, whatever you're doing, alright? But with that, yeah, it's time for me to go ahead and skedaddle on out of here. So I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching, and I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I am gone. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys for another year of Pokemon. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next year. Bye!